Hi everyone, my name is Micah Doherty and I'm going to be your bassoon coach today. So today we're working on Rimsky-Korsakov's Dance of the Clowns. So I'm going to give a few tips and suggestions for kind of key elements that you should be trying to incorporate into your playing when you're learning this. And then a few practice strategies that you can use as you work up this excerpt. So the first element that I just want to really highlight is making sure we're thinking about the character of the piece, right? So the title, Dance of the Clowns, has a lot of imagery in it. And so when we're listening to this piece, we want to hear that character. We want to hear the comical kind of sound. We want to hear lots of color, playfulness, and bounce, which the bassoon is great at doing. And the composer indicates a lot of those things for us in the music. The next element that we're kind of talking about, the composer gives us a lot of dynamics and articulations, so we want to pay close attention to those things when we're learning this. And then we also want to keep a really steady rhythm, and I think that's really critical as we have very consistent 8th notes and 16th notes throughout, okay? So looking at this from the very beginning, we're going to kind of walk through measure by measure. So when you're learning it, I definitely encourage you to learn it at a very slow speed. So we have our quarter note marked 120. So when I first start working on this, an easy slow speed is just going half tempo. So if we hear it at quarter note equals 60, somewhere in there, 60 to 70 is a good range to start. And from the very first measure, I want to notice fortissimo at the beginning and staccato. And then we have the words 3 measures later, sempre staccato. So that just means that it's always going to be staccato. So we want to make sure that as we play through these 8th notes, they all match and they all have the same shortness and the same bounce of the character that we want. So when playing it slow, the first few measures we can just work on like this. And so really working to keep fortissimo all the way through these first 6 or 7 measures, okay? So keep the fortissimo going as you play through these lines. And so on that way. Another thing we can really focus on as we move through these 8th notes, when we're looking at adding more character to it, follow the direction of the notes. These 8th notes kind of wind down and then back up in range. They go lower, they go higher, and we can follow that contour with our dynamics in order to give it a little bit more shape and phrasing. So I work on it like this. You can play around with a lot of different kind of combinations and groupings of notes, but I think by really listening and focusing on the contour of the notes, it makes it more fun to play and it gives a little bit more character. So that's kind of the first entrance. The next entrance in the second line, we want to, again, really pay attention to our dynamics, and we change to piano. So we've really tried to maintain fortissimo throughout because that's going to give us more contrast to piano when we start this next part. This is the most technical part with the 16th notes. And so, again, start it really slow because you want to make sure that you catch all the articulations, the right rhythms, right notes, and all that stuff when you're first learning it, so you learn it the right way. So I like to just play one measure at a time and really try to absorb all the information we can and play it, as perfectly as we possibly can before we start adding measures. And so we want those accents to be a little bit of a surprise, okay? So try to keep this section with our 16th notes piano and as quiet as we can throughout. And when we have the accent and notes, we want those to kind of stick out a little bit as a little bit of a jab. We really want to highlight that articulation when we have it. And just as you're learning this, pay attention to the different kind of variations in rhythm that he has. It's a very similar combination of notes from D, F sharp, G, A, and G, and he just kind of varies the rhythm a little bit. So make sure that you're playing the exact rhythm that he indicates for each measure. And then the last section, starting at B, again, this is about consistency. We want to hear really consistent articulation. The staccato applies to all of these eighth notes. Really steady, rock solid tempo. So don't, space out on these parts that are kind of repetitive, but really show the listener that you have really great tempo, really consistent articulation. You can keep the forte sound going. And then the last 3 or 4 measures where the notes start to change a little bit more, we don't have a crescendo indicated, but I think it's appropriate to emphasize the notes as we change them and kind of crescendo to the end, okay? The other thing I'd emphasize is definitely listen to the recording. I would listen to the recording before you even play this, so you get the character. Then you can work on it slowly in the 60 to 70 range. Then start bumping the tempo up kind of a mid-level to 90. And then you can start playing it along with the recording once you're closer to tempo. So we've done a little bit of the slow tempo. I'm going to play through the excerpt at a mid-range tempo. So this is 88. So you can try practicing along with me. I'm going to keep the metronome on so we can stay together. And again, listen for the dynamics and try to get as much of that as you can. Great. So there's a lot of fun things, a lot of fun elements in here, I think. So, do the best you can to really enjoy this and play up the character. The more you put into those musical elements, I think the more fun it is to work on an excerpt like this. And then, go for that top target tempo, but be patient, take your time. Don't try to play it too fast, too soon. Really work on all of your accuracy and getting all these elements together. And then you can gradually speed it up over time. Thanks.